Number 10. Onslaught. It feels a little weird to call Onslaught mysterious in retrospect, but back in the day, this was a villain that was made to kind of be mysterious. For a long time we didn't actually know who Onslaught was, although it did seem pretty obvious. I mean, look at this character design. The same kind of mystery involving Onslaught's true identity was recently revived during the Reign of X era in the comics, where Onslaught returned in the series Way of X. It took until Onslaught Revelation until Onslaught's identity was truly explained and dealt with. Now, I won't spoil that mystery for you if you haven't read Way of X yet and Onslaught Revelation, as both are great comics and the mystery is one that is actually pretty enticing, so you should definitely go read it. Especially considering how unmysterious Onslaught has become since the 90s when they were first introduced, but we're bringing the mystery back with this one, so yay. There's gonna be people that are gonna be like, I know who Onslaught is, and I'm gonna be like, but do you? But do you know? Because you might not know right now. Number 9. Crime Master. A smaller villain whose identity was a mystery involving clues meant to misdirect you. Oddly enough, this isn't the only Crime Master that has existed in the comics, which I guess makes sense. After all, Crime Master is a pretty sweet villain name, so we wouldn't want to get rid of that. Don't just want to throw that one away. Still, this was the first appearance of a character with that mantle over in the land of Spider-Man and of Marvel. This version of the villain first appeared in Amazing Spider-Man issue number 26. We were led to believe he was a seemingly reformed criminal returned to crime and fellow Daily Bugle employee Frederick Foswell, formerly known as Crime Boss Big Man. But in the end, Crime Master was revealed to be a criminal of no note really in regards to the world of Spider-Man. The mystery only went on for 2 issues before we learned of his true identity as Nick Lucky Lewis, a criminal we hadn't ever interacted with until these issues of The Amazing Spider-Man issues 26 and 27. At least, I don't think so. I don't think we'd interacted with them before. However, this also wouldn't be the only Crime Master, the more recognizable version of the villain also being a surprising reveal of Bennett Brandt, Betty Brandt's brother. But that's a story for another time. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want to learn more about villains that are shrouded in mystery or bring mystery to the comics with them, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. A secret thumbs up. But not so secret because, you know, we'll see that you clicked like. Well, we won't see that you clicked like, but someone did. Ooh, mystery. Number 8. Veranke the Skrull Queen. Maybe one of the most mysterious villains of all time has to be Queen Veranke, also Empress of the Skrull Empire. Or at one point she was Empress of the Skrull Empire. Although not an undisputably celebrated ruler amongst the Skrulls at the time, not without opposition, still, Veranke managed to secretly invade Earth and infiltrate the planet's mightiest heroic team, the Avengers. For years, Veranke went undercover as Jessica Drew, taking her place as early as before the events of House of M, and revealing herself only years later during the Secret Invasion story. The reveal that Spider-Woman for years had actually been Veranke in disguise, with Spider-Woman's power set and memories successfully impersonating her all these years, was a startling shock for readers and fans of the character. Number 7. Big Man the Second and Crime Master the Second. These two are really a duo package. Of course, this time around we were once again left wondering who they were, as Big Man and Crime Master had been dealt with previously in the comics. The mystery involved another team-up from Marvel Team-Up issue 39 and 40. While we pondered who Big Man could really be, we'd once again be misled by the character's name and their masculine appearance. Ooh. Turns out that the second Big Man was actually Janice Foswell, the daughter of Frederick Foswell, convinced that Spider-Man was to blame for her father's fate and seeking revenge. However, even more mysterious, her partner Crime Master was surprisingly her fiance Nick Lewis Jr. Now I say surprising because I don't think Janice herself was even aware of the true identity of her partner. Nick Jr. was of course also out for revenge on Spider-Man for what had happened to his father, Nick Lucky Lewis, the formerly unknown criminal who was revealed to be the original Crime Master. Gasp! So much mystery. Number 6. Hobgoblin. Speaking of villains with super secret and much debated identities, that is also Hobgoblin. For a long time in the comics, the true identity of Hobgoblin was a topic of much debate, with everyone comparing their theories and running polls amongst their friends for who was considered the most likely true identity of Hobgoblin. It was revealed later on to be Ned Leeds behind the mask, although even then, he wasn't the real Hobgoblin, but only a decoy brainwashed and used by the real Hobgoblin villain Roderick Kingsley. Ned Leeds, Peter's good friend, would later end up dying tragically as a result of becoming a victim of Hobgoblin. Man, being friends with Peter Parker seems like it would be really dangerous, to be honest. Like, I know it wasn't really Peter's fault that Ned became a Hobgoblin stand-in, but just connecting some dots there, like, doesn't seem pretty good. Also, there seems to be a good chance that you might become evil or go insane or just die if you're friends with Peter Parker, so just watch out. If you ever meet Spider-Man in real life and he's like, let's be friends, maybe be like, maybe I'm gonna take a rain check on that. Number 5. Power Broker. Power Broker has always been a mysterious figure, and not just in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where fans of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series spent some time trying to decipher their true identity. Even now, some people actually still don't believe that the reveal that we got in that series is even the true one, and some out there theorize that there could still be a power broker working behind the scenes and above Sharon Carter and simply using her as a front for their true identity. So, you know, Sharon's working for the power broker, but she's not really the power broker. In the comics, Power Broker has always been a villain shrouded in mystery, and even today we still do not know the identity of the modern day Power Broker. Now, initially Power Broker was Curtis Jackson, but even before his death in 2012, there was a new Power Broker out there on the scene, making their first appearance in Avengers: The Initiative Annual in 2008, whose identity remains unknown, I believe, till this very day. I don't think we've found out yet who they are. More than 10 years later, like, that's a long time to be like, who knows? It's someone. Watch, it's gonna be another like Crime Master situation when we do find out, and they'll be like, it's this guy! You don't know him, but it's a person. Number 4. Kang the Conqueror. Kang is one of the most mysterious villains I think that we have in Marvel Comics even to this day. He's a character who has lived countless other lives and had many different identities over the years. And even after many of these have been revealed, he still has managed to surprise us in the modern day with the reveal that Kang was originally the hero Iron Lad. And in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, when it comes to Kang, we are just scratching the surface of this character. There is still so much yet for us to uncover and explore with this villain, who I have no doubt will continue to be equally mysterious in this universe as we learn more and more about all his other variants and just what exactly their intentions and their motivations are. Welcome to the multiverse. Number 3. Mysterio. Mysterio has mystery basically in their name, so obviously we gotta include him. Mysterio is also well known for his illusions and tricks. This often means he can create mysteries not just in terms of disguising himself, but also in disguising any plot of his to seem like something that is really happening. In other words, you know, he's all about illusions. He almost succeeded in driving Daredevil Matt Murdock crazy with his illusions when he made him think a child in his care was actually the Antichrist. Fortunately, in the end, Matt was able to see through Mysterio's illusion, but it was proven through this story just how hard that can actually be to do. Number 2. Chameleon. Chameleon is a villain known for his ability to disguise himself as just about anyone and convince you that he is truly them. He was also the one in part behind the plot to convince Peter his parents were still alive, only for him to learn that they were actually robots. Dun dun dun. However, his disguise skills and mysterious ways are still no match for Mary Jane, keep that in mind, who almost immediately recognized that he wasn't really Peter Parker when he tried to impersonate him. So no stealing kisses for Chameleon, which honestly, thank goodness, Mary Jane has been through enough in the comics. She did not need that tacked on to her like long list of awful experiences in her life. Number 1. Loki. The only thing that could possibly make Loki slightly unmysterious, I guess, is the fact that he's pretty much always up to something. So it's come to the point that you kind of expect Loki to be pulling tricks and disguising himself. However, even then, with this expectation there have been many times throughout the years that the trickster has still managed to pull the wool over all of our eyes. Maybe it's because he's so charming and oddly lovable. We want to believe and trust him at times, and yet we never truly can. But still, it doesn't stop us from wanting to or trying to, you know? Loki has pulled off some pretty impressive feats when it comes to convincing people his lies, tricks, or illusions were, you know, not any of that. And he's also done a good job of convincing us of his sincerity when he really was sincere, like when he was Kid Loki, who really was inherently quite good in terms of his alignment. It's actually the goodness within him that I guess makes him so hard to read, so mysterious, and really so dangerous, because it gives us hope that he can be redeemed and his intentions this time might actually be good, when in most cases...
Coming in at number 10, we have Eclipso, the alleged former Wrath of God. A supernatural agent of chaos with his face permanently in the shade of a constant eclipse, Eclipso claimed to be the one who carried out the biblical flood of Noah's Ark, and that he was replaced in his position as the physical embodiment of God's wrath by the Spectre, because Eclipso was just too violent and angry for the role. Older than almost every other being on Earth, Eclipso has fought many heroes over the years, and even though he no longer possesses the power of a full god, he is still an extremely dangerous magical being, and who knows what he'll do next to try and regain his power. Coming in at number 9, we have Starro the Conqueror, specifically the version seen in James Gunn's 2021 film, The Suicide Squad. Found by American astronauts during the early days of the Cold War merely drifting through space, Starro was imprisoned and tortured for 30 years by the American government on the island Corto Maltese when it was discovered that Starro possessed incredible telepathic mind control powers that the government seek to learn how to weaponize. Although he eventually had to be taken down by the Suicide Squad when his anger at being imprisoned caused him to go on a rampage, Starro's story wound up being a tragic one, as his sad last words were, "I was happy, floating, staring at the stars." Rest in peace, Starro. Hopefully there's lots of stars to look at in big, mysterious kaiju heaven. Coming in at number 8, we have the Lord of Chaos, Dominus. An enemy of Superman's, Dominus was originally a peaceful magic user on his alien homeworld, who soon became jealous when the woman he loved ascended past him and became the magical leader of their planet. Filled with envy and rage, Dominus was imprisoned in the Phantom Zone as punishment for attempting to betray his love, and over the course of his long imprisonment, Dominus soon learned to embrace the chaos of magic and managed to free himself through a gateway in Superman's Fortress of Solitude. With strength to rival the Man of Steel himself and magical abilities that can completely distort reality, Dominus is one of the most unpredictable and dangerous magic wielders in the entire DC universe. Coming in at number 7, we have the Reverse Flash. A walking time paradox, the Reverse Flash hails from a 25th century where the Flash is remembered as one of the greatest heroes of all time. Becoming obsessed with Barry Allen, the Reverse Flash was eventually able to gain control of the negative Speed Force and made it his life's goal to replace and destroy Barry after realizing he was destined to be defeated by him. Capable of traveling through time, Reverse Flash would wind up being responsible for nearly every bad thing that ever happened in Barry's life, raising a whole lot of questions about cause and effect and all sorts of timey-wimey weirdness, but mainly going to show that he's a dangerous and unpredictable villain. Coming in at number 6, we have the Court of Owls. Introduced in one of my personal favorite Batman arcs, the Court of Owls is an ancient conspiracy that has controlled Gotham City from the shadows for hundreds of years. Originally believed to just be a myth by Batman, given that he had investigated their existence as a kid after the murder of his parents, the court eventually revealed themselves when Bruce Wayne committed to super modernizing Gotham City. With multiple assassins that are seemingly immortal in their employ, and even some members of the court itself appearing to be human-owl hybrids, there's still a lot we don't know about the Court of Owls, and I for one can't wait to find out what we'll learn next. Coming in at number 5, we have Vandal Savage. Remember how I mentioned Eclipso is one of the oldest beings on Earth in the DC universe? Well, Vandal Savage is also in the running, having lived through much of human history as an immortal warrior and conqueror. Seemingly unable to age and with incredible healing abilities in most depictions of the character, Vandal supposedly gained his incredible powers from the radiation of a comet that may have originally been connected to Superman's homeworld of Krypton. Regardless of how he gained his abilities, however, Savage has been a persistent enemy to the Justice League for literally thousands of years, always scheming for a new way to gain more power. Coming in at number 4, we have the Emperor of Shadow, aka another evil Bruce Wayne from the Dark Multiverse. In a very recent one-off issue entitled Batman/Superman Authority Special, Batman discovers a reality from the Dark Multiverse where Ra's al Ghul's plan to dominate humanity has come to pass, and the League of Shadows has become an Empire of Shadows, controlling the entire world. To make matters worse, the leader of this empire is a Bruce Wayne who gave in to Ra's al Ghul's teachings and embraced his position as the world's new emperor. While Batman and Superman were eventually able to destroy the link between this world and the regular DC universe in order to prevent an invasion, this twisted version of Bruce Wayne is still out there, likely biding his time until the next opportunity arises for the Dark Multiverse to attack the regular multiverse once more. Coming in at number 3, we have Duella Dent. Now, given her last name, you'd assume that Duella was Harvey Dent, aka Two-Face's daughter. And that was her original backstory, with her being given the name Duella because Two-Face was disappointed that he didn't have twins. However, Duella's origins are actually a lot more mysterious, as in subsequent appearances, she's claimed to be the daughter of the Joker, the Penguin, Catwoman, Scarecrow, Riddler, and even Doomsday. Given the extreme unlikelihood that Duella could somehow be all of these villains' daughters, this crazy killer's origins may still be a mystery, but definitely don't make her any less dangerous. Coming in at number 2, we have to go with Batman's iconic nemesis, the Joker. When you're making a list about mysterious villains, the Clown Prince of Crime just has to be on there, because in a way, even more extreme than Duella, we still don't know what this guy's really all about. There have been attempts over the years to give the Joker some sort of backstory, like the Red Hood incident, or when the DC Universe briefly had 3 entirely separate Jokers, but these stories always seem to land on deciding that the Joker's true origin is ambiguous at best. But in all honesty, giving 100% certain backstory to the Joker would be betraying much of his character, and leaving a bit of ambiguity, well, that's probably for the best. And finally, coming in at number 1, we have Perpetua, the dark goddess of the multiverse. The DC multiverse has faced many threats over the course of its existence, with the highest stakes being reserved for events labeled as a crisis. But beyond the scope of even the Crisis on Infinite Earths is Perpetua, the mother of the Anti-Monitor, and a being that, until recently, was locked behind the Source Wall at the very edge of the DC universe. The creator of every story we've ever been told throughout all of DC Comics, Perpetua altered and manipulated the multiverse for her own purposes and to thwart the mysterious hands that seem to be even beyond her own power level. We still don't know everything there is to know about Perpetua, even if she was eventually able to have her plans stopped, and the sheer scale of her ambitions makes her the most mysterious DC villain of all.
Grail has made her triumphant and destructive return this year. As the daughter of Darkseid, prophesized to basically end the world, we should expect nothing less. Her moment was probably the Darkseid War from Justice League Volume 2. She nearly destroyed the team. She was literally named the goddess of anti-life. Not even her own family is safe. After the death of her father, she kidnapped someone's super baby and made said baby absorb a bunch of powers, also making that baby's growth accelerate, turning them into the new Darkseid mid-battle, a Darkseid that was 100% under her control. The fight only ended when Grail opened her eyes, blasting through her mom and her dad, creating a huge explosion. It looked like she was gone forever, however that was not the case. Turns out she just went to some underground cave with her baby father and is now raising him down there until he's ready to break stuff again. She is actively speeding up his growth by attacking and ending the children of Zeus, so she's evil through and through. Another villain that has had a bit of a comeback this year is Varney. Varney is thought to be the first ever vampire in history, being turned into one in a ritual performed by Atlantean sorcerers about 70,000 years before Jesus. He also has the usual vampire powers, strength and speed, etc., but also a healing factor, telepathy, shape-shifting, magic, dark force manipulation, and more. In Time Spirits 4, before, Varney asked the Crystal Skull, the thing that is supposed to be the truth of man, if he was pure evil, and the answer was yes! It was also confirmed in this comic that the only way there will be an end to Varney is if he chooses it, so he is pretty much all-powerful, aside from all the regular vampire weaknesses, of course. For a long time, Varney was vulnerable to sunlight and silver and religious symbols of gods that only existed when he was turned into a vampire, so like crosses wouldn't do anything. The bad news is, when Varney possessed Blade in the recent Blood Hunt story, he lost all these weaknesses. He was only able to be defeated after a long battle against the Avengers and being attacked by a member of Blade's bloodline and someone of his own bloodline. So this next villain has quite the name, so please be prepared. Boss Glitter was the main antagonist of the forgotten DC series about the Heckler. Don't let the ridiculous name fool you. Boss Glitter is a ruthless mob boss. He just happens to have a little bit of flair. He uses old Mardi Gras masks to hide his face, and he controls the city by planting just like a bunch of lieutenants that manage different parts of it for him. The problem is, the Heckler keeps defeating those lieutenants and throwing them in jail, so naturally Boss Glitter wants the Heckler to heckle no more. When his lieutenants fail to end his comedy act, Boss Glitter takes matters into his own hands, and this is a great example of being ruthless with a dramatic flair. Glitter sends a bouquet of flowers to Heckler, who is in the hospital, but with a bomb in them. The Heckler does still survive though, and we don't hear from Boss Glitter anymore because the comics had bad sales, so the whole series was cancelled. But Boss Glitter, he does now live in my head, rent-free. Up next is ironically Overshadow. Barely anyone knows who he is or have forgotten about the villain, and yet he might be one of the most powerful villains Marvel has ever created. Overshadow got his powers from the White Event, and because Philip Nolan Voight was climbing a mountain while it happened and was therefore closest to space, he got the most power. He is able to replicate the powers of any paranormal he encounters. Not only that, but he gets to keep the powers after replication, and not only that, but he can then magnify them. The only power he could not replicate, which ended up being his undoing, was the powers of the Star Brand. I think people forget Overshadow simply because the comics he was in weren't very popular as other Marvel stuff, and they were the DP7 comics of Earth 148,611. Spotlight on Graviton. He gained the ability to mentally control gravity after a failed teleportation experiment. At first, when Graviton started being evil, no one really knew because his lab was in the Canadian Rockies, but then someone sent a distress signal to the Avengers, so they got involved. The Avengers thought this was going to be a really easy win for them. The guy was just a human, right? Wrong. Graviton literally threw the Avengers around and won the fight. He ended up destroying himself by making a building collapse on him, and it would take a while before he was able to separate all the atoms again. After that, he had amnesia, but eventually returned to a life of crime. Dead Ringer can take on the form of any dead body he touches, and it's a lot more useful and can cause way more problems than you might think. Dead Ringer is a mutant. His mimicking abilities are not reserved for people, you can also mimic animals. He discovered his abilities by touching his deceased cat and then father, which is traumatic. Choosing to use his powers for evil, he started to remove pieces of heroes from their graves, because when he touches a deceased super person, he gets their powers. Dead Ringer is limited to one person at a time, and if he wants to revisit the body of someone, he has to touch them again. And that is hard when you take decaying into account, a major inconvenience. Dead Ringer's most famous battle was when he and his partner, Super Patriot, became Porcupine and Captain America to destroy Cap's reputation. The two staged a fight at a charity gala and deliberately hurt the crowd. The pair were eventually arrested. Sticks and Stones have very different origin stories, but are now connected for life. Sticks was originally homeless, and Stone was on a team of scientists doing experimental cancer research. The team of scientists were offering compensation for anyone willing to be experimented on, so Sticks signed up. Stone thought that someone could become immune to cancer the same way you can become immune to snake bites. Of course, he did run the test on Sticks, and of course, it ended in the worst way. Sticks became a walking cancer, decaying any organic matter he comes in contact with. Awful outcome, but at least Stone's theory was right. Sticks was immune to cancer himself. Stone felt really bad about this and vowed to find a cure for Sticks. Somewhere along the way, we actually don't know how it happened, but Stone turned into a big stone monster, and with that, he gained the ability to decay any inorganic matter. One hero that did fight them that I think was a worthy match was Deadpool. Bloodshadow is a very cool villain that I don't want to meet, but I do think they should bring back. He was known for facing off against Wolverine. Bloodshadow was capable of telepathy and a trained martial artist. He He was also very familiar with the human body. He knew all its deadly pressure points like the back of his hand. He combined this trio of skills into an interesting fighting style. He would use his telepathy to determine an opponent's next move, his martial arts training to counter it, and his knowledge of the human body to determine which deadly pressure points would be exposed so he could hit them. The man was clearly incredibly intelligent. He won most of his fights quickly and without any harm done to him using his unique method. Unfortunately for Blood Shadow, his telepathy was a bit too powerful in a fight with Wolverine, and he accidentally unlocked Wolverine's base feral animalistic instincts. No one can survive those, not even Blood Shadow. I would love to see him brought back though to fight against other Marvel heroes, just to see what happens. Up next is the Sphinx. He started out as a simple wizard, but then became wielder of the Cawstone and eventually a cosmic class threat. After finding the Cawstone, it quickly attached itself to his forehead, and it came with a long list of pretty cool powers, including immortality, telepathy, flight, teleportation, illusion creation, and more. One of his underutilized powers is his ability to alter reality. He usually keeps it on the less dramatic side, but could cause some real problems if he wanted to. Sphinx eventually grew tired of being immortal and decided to search for a way to get the stone off. He did so in a manner that gained the attention of the Fantastic Four, now dead set on stopping him. They called in Galactus, who defeated Sphinx, stripping him of his power, then sent him back in time in a time loop to live his life again and again. However, they forgot that Sphinx already existed at that time, so now there were two. Together they developed a way to prevent his future fate, and he almost succeeded. He lived on and continued being the worst. When I came across Creed Harley Quinn, or Hyena, in my research for this video, I literally thought to myself, oh yeah, he's going in, he sounds like a total nightmare. We all know Sabretooth, the thorn in Wolverine's side. We all know the Joker, Batman's permanent headache. In a burst of creativity, Marvel and DC decided to combine these two to create the most unhinged creature on the planet. Hyena has all the powers of the two villains, plus he also just looks creepy. Sabretooth on his own is insane, but Joker is on another level when it comes to lack of mental sanity. The two literally took the worst, or I guess the best, of the other in this Frankenstein tale. So Marvel and DC had no choice but to combine Batman and Wolverine, creating Darkclaw. At least we can all sleep soundly knowing that someone capable enough is out there to stop Hyena from ending his universe. Hopefully people will start talking about this.
Number 10. Herbie the Fat Fury. Who the heck is Herbie the Fat Fury? Yes, exactly. Herbie Popnecker was a dopey, big, lazy, emotionless kid who always looked like he was on the verge of falling asleep, and he was always sucking on lollipops. Now these lollipops were actually part of what made him a superhero, and a pretty powerful one at that. These magical lollipops from the unknown basically allowed him to do anything, but he also had some genetic powers, some of which included heat vision, invisibility, talking to animals, flight, and honestly, through the lollipops, whatever else the story called for. He was known throughout the universe, was irresistible to women, and yet neither of his parents knew he had powers, with his dad even treating him like absolute garbage, which is funny considering his dad was actually the garbage one. This kid was consulted by world leaders, so shut up, Dad. Ugh. Number 9. Kid Eternity. Christopher Kit Freeman was a kid in the DC universe. After his death, it was realized that he actually passed about 75 years before it was actually his time. Because of this, the wizard Shazam fixed the mistake of Mr. Keeper, the one who decides when people die, and decided to bring Christopher back. But as a little oops, sorry for ending your life, Chris learned that he had gained the ability to call on the spirits of the deceased. He says the word eternity and he is transformed into his hero form and can summon the dead as well as gods, mythological, legendary, and even fictional characters, which is really cool. He also has a ghostly form that can go invisible and fly. He has a modern day iteration with similar power set, except he was a coroner and came back to use his powers as a detective, but he really hasn't been featured all too much, and I think this character has some pretty good potential, so let's see it happen, okay? Alright. Cool. Number 8. Night Thrasher. Night Thrasher of Marvel Comics is Dwayne Michael Taylor, and he's basically Batman by any other name. His parents were dispatched right in front of him, he is ultra rich, and he only comes out at night as his name might have suggested. He's also the leader of the New Warriors, which is apparently due for a new series. You may have heard of the New Warriors. They were that group of heroes who basically were the cause of the Stamford, Connecticut incident that caused the Superhuman Registration Act and the Superhuman Civil War. It appeared that Night Thrasher had passed on because of that incident, but that weren't true. He's been around in a very minor aspect since that, and even appeared in a Punisher story in 2019, but as an allegory of Batman, he should be able to do a lot more. Number 7, Brother Power. Brother Power is not truly a living person. No. He came about in the 1960s when a small group of hippies living in an abandoned tailor shop put an old suit on a mannequin, and for some reason, a combination of rain, dust, and the heat from a radiator, plus a lightning strike, brought the mannequin to life with powers including energy absorption, electroblasts, molecular reconstruction, super strength, durability, and object animation. Brother Power defended the hippies from a gang, and they taught Brother Power about music and chemistry. He was also kind of trained to be a pacifist. His last major appearance was back in 2009, and I think he's due for a return. Number 6, Dupe. How often do we get a character like this? I'll tell you, not often. This bumpy looking weird bean thing was the product of a Cold War US military experiment and was instrumental in the fall of the Soviet Union, somehow, but no one ever actually explains that. So that's one reason to bring him back, to explain that. Please. Dupe is unable to learn English, and as such, he speaks in a language all of his own that everyone somehow can understand. I'm assuming this is some form of telepathy, I really don't know. But according to Captain America, the US government created him in a secret weapons project. But apparently, he also comes from a place called Marginalia, the world between worlds, and a place that begins where the story ends, quote unquote, whatever the hell that means. I couldn't tell you. The most surprising thing is his list of powers. It is long. He has possible omniscience, he's strong and durable enough to defeat Thor, he can heal from super serious wounds in seconds and resurrect himself, he has blinding speed, size alteration, energy projection, psionic fire, blasts, and shields. He can perform dupish magic and has the power of the funk. Oh, and I almost forgot. Dupe's body contains a nightmare dimension known as Dupe Land, and he is able to access it by turning himself inside out. All of this from a lima bean with arms. Cool. Number 5, Sasquatch. You know, as much as Marvel kind of tries to give Canada their own superhumans, with Wolverine and Alpha Flight, it always feels like we're kind of left at the wayside a little bit. Take Sasquatch for example. He's basically a hairy, less cool Canadian Hulk. After learning of how Banner got turned into the Hulk, Dr. Walter Lankowski began working on his own gamma radiation experiment to make a Hulk, but without having to expose himself to an entire explosion. He turned himself into a massive fur-covered beast and went rampaging until he was helped by Shaman and Snowbird to gain control of his personality and intelligence when in Squatch form. Now, he has a bit more of an involved history than a few characters on this list, especially recently with the Immortal Hulk story. But I still think most people don't think of him when thinking of even Hulk-related heroes, and that needs to change. He's cool, damn it. Number 4, The Max. The Max was a comic by Image Comics, and basically, a social worker named Julie has a very traumatic experience after trying to help a homeless man. Because of that, when she accidentally hits another homeless man with her car, she decides to just cover his body in trash. Now, due to her traumatic experiences, she began taking psychological refuge in an alternate dimension called the Outback inside her own mind. The garbage that she covered the homeless man in touches with this Outback reality, and a purple lampshade expands over the homeless man's body and turns him into this crazy looking purple stinky Pez eating hero. It's kinda nuts. The Max has no idea of his and Julie's connection, but in the Outback world he is her protector, and in the real world he is more of a homeless vagrant still. His only real power is crazy super strength, but I think it's a really crazy concept that could use more exploring. Number 3. The Question. DC Comics is full of detective-like mysterious characters, but what better mysterious character to talk about than The Question? Specifically, I want to talk about Renee Montoya, who took over after Vic Sage, who passed away during the events of 52. Question has a vendetta against the religion of crime, and she is an ally to Batman. Neither she or her mentor had any real powers. They were both just skilled detectives, and they wore a mask made of a skin-like material called pseudoderm, which basically made them look like they had no facial features, so like no mouth, no nose, no eyes, no eyebrows, no ears, nothing. Honestly kind of terrifying, but hey, who am I to judge? Renee as Question hasn't really been doing much recently, and honestly her mentor was a bit more interesting, having a whole philosophical crisis and all that. But I'll be damned if they aren't a cool and interesting looking character who I want to see more of. Number 2, Freakazoid. Have you ever watched this show? Such an utterly bizarre character, and it came around when I honestly think superhero cartoons were at their greatest. His powers included the ability to have all the knowledge of the internet, which honestly explains why he is literally insane. He is also super strong in varying degrees, and he has moved at the speed of light. But honestly, he has the way better power of cartoon physics, which is an easy way of saying he can break the laws of physics and reality, honestly, in hilarious ways to defeat enemies and just mess with people. He also seems to be aware he isn't a cartoon because he breaks the fourth wall all the time. The show has been gone for a while, and part of me really wants a comeback, while another part of me thinks modern showmakers would kinda just ruin it. What do you think? And coming in at number 1, it's Matter Eater Lad. When an alien race has all their food infected by microbes, they evolve to be able to eat unlimited amounts of any other form of matter to survive instead. Naturally. This alien race are native to the planet Bismol, and this is where Legion of Superheroes member Tenzil Kem, better known as Matter Eater Lad, hails from. The 15th member to join the Legion, Matter Eater Lad has an ability you just wouldn't think would be useful. But you would be wrong. Like, imagine you get stuck inside somewhere. He could eat a way out for you guys. Imagine a giant asteroid was on its way to Earth. He could eat that. Imagine someone fires an energy blast at you. He could intercept it with his mouth and eat that. He can eat through literally anything due to his digestive enzymes that he and everyone of his race produces. Thanks to comic books, this ability has become more and more useful in very random ways. For example, Bismolians don't possess any other superpowers, really. But the ability to eat tons and tons of anything and digest it in literally seconds apparently translates into food energy that can give them super speed, as an example. He is utterly ridiculous and kind of disturbing, but with him being mentioned in Peacemaker, the show, I think it's time for a comeback.
In at 10, the Infinity Stones. The Infinity Stones, or Infinity Gems, depending on what version you want to call them, are just 6 immensely gem-like objects that were created by the Big Bang from just singularities, each tied to a different aspect of the universe. Directly wielding the stones requires immense power, such as that possessed by Celestials, or I guess Thanos, but lesser beings who attempt to wield it face dire consequences. Johann Schmidt guarded the Soul Stone on Vormir after touching an active Tesseract. Jade Foster was sick after being exposed to the Aether, and I mean, Cornelia exploded when she touched the Power Stone. But I mean, the real question is why? Placing the Infinity Stones inside of a container somehow lets you wield the stones without repercussions, despite you also not touching them. So how are you able to use them if they're just surrounded by metal? I don't exactly understand, but my real issue is, sure, they were created by the Big Bang, but how? Why? Why did the Big Bang go like, oh yeah, you know what, these 6 stones, these are the 6 elements of the universe, and those are the only elements that we're ever gonna... No! That doesn't make sense. Why? I get that it's, oh, comics, blah, blah, come on, bro. God.
Number 9, All Black. For those who are unaware, the All Black Necrosword is one of the most powerful items in all of the Marvel Universe. What does it do? It allows those who wield it to create almost anything with it. It is actually a living, breathing sword, or weapon. The first symbiote to have been created by Null the King in Black, the god of symbiotes. It is his weapon, but he is not the only one who has wielded it. For a while, this was the same weapon Gore the God Butcher used in the comics to slay any gods he came across as punishment for abandoning him and his family despite their initial belief and devotion to the gods. Having this weapon elevates you to a god level in terms of powers, and it is actually linked to an undead celestial. So yeah, not only powerful, but also for a long time a mystery to us until we learned of its true origin and connection to Null.
In at 8, the 10 Rings. These 10 rings held the souls of ancient cosmic warriors, each trapped in a phantasmal state within their respective ring. Additionally, each artifact contains a quarantined AI that activated when the rings were separated from their wielders, but these cylinders, or rings, arrived on Earth aboard a starship with a dude who sought refuge in a cave in China's Valley of Spirits after being mortally wounded by frightened locals. I mean, yeah, if a dude shows up in a spaceship, I'd be kinda scared too. not gonna lie. The Mandarin takes these rings and learns to harness their power, wearing them on each finger and then each of them giving him different abilities. When he wears all the rings together, the spirits within influence his thoughts, driving him to resurrect them. But yeah, where did these things really come from and why are they so powerful? How can rings hold spirits of ancient warriors and just what is their actual origin? They come out of nowhere. Like, what the hell? I don't get it. Sure, they have an explanation, but they also don't.
Number 7. Cosmic Cube. What is the Cosmic Cube exactly? Have you ever wondered? And is there just one? While in the MCU we know this item to be an all-powerful weapon, a source of basically limitless energy, in the comics there are multiple Cosmic Cubes. Where did they come from? Well, if you are exclusively an MCU fan, you might not know the answer to this question because we haven't actually met the alien race who made them, the all-powerful Beyonders, or at least, you know, their energy made them. You can make a Cosmic Cube yourself if you are able to open up a rift to a pocket dimension where the Beyonders stored sentient energy. As the energy moves into the earthly realm, it then manifests in the form of a perfect cube, hence Cosmic Cube. Cosmic Cubes can shapeshift into living beings, and if you happen to be skilled enough with one, you can actually use a Cosmic Cube to rewrite reality. Whoa.
And it's 6 Necro Sword. Don't worry, I'm talking about the MCU one. The Necro Sword is a sword created just... Honestly, I don't remember much of the Thor movie. You heard Amanda talk about it already, but my question is where does it come from in the MCU, okay? Like, there is no null in this universe, or at least that we know of. We only know that when Tom Holland's gonna have to fight Venom, it's gonna be because of the Eddie Brock from the Venomverse that brought it over during No Way Home, and then was never in the movie until the end credits where he was sent back and just dropped a little bit of it. So yeah, unless that ends up being null or ends up being all black, then there is no real god of symbiotes. Even if that is what happens, why is it that the sword exists before or after this? It's like there's no chicken and the egg thing here. It's not, come on. Come on.
Number 5. Ebony Blade. For fans of Black Knight, this artifact and weapon might not be a mystery, but at the same time, Black Knight is not the most popular character Marvel has. Also, what is happening with our MCU Black Knight, by the way? Weren't we supposed to get like a show or a film with this character? Apparently, last year Kit Harington sat down with The Hollywood Reporter in November to discuss another project, and the conversation turned to Marvel and Kit's portrayal of Dane Whitman. Dane Whitman is the hero we come to know in the comics as the Black Knight, who through his ancestry inherits a powerful weapon and with it, a curse. This weapon is known as the Ebony Blade and is the source of Dane's power as Black Knight and his corruption. It was teased during the post-credits in Eternals, but we still have yet to see Harington in action wielding the sword as the Black Knight, and in that interview they basically asked him about it and he was just like, yeah, I don't really know what's happening with that. Are we getting it? I don't know. Marvel, respond in the comments, please.
And for All Blood is a spear, I'm pretty sure. It's a different thing, okay? It's the Necro Spear, and is a divine weapon crafted by Drorin Runehoor and Carnage. I doubt I said that name right. I mean, the first one, I know I said Carnage right, but oh well. Using All Black, the Necro Sword, as its template, granting Carnage power akin to that of Null. Reanimated by Null, Cletus Cassidy sought to seize the Dark God's power and become a god of destruction, but Eddie Brock foiled his plans. Undeterred, Cletus devised a new scheme to become a god butcher himself, corrupting stranded symbiotes on Earth and assimilating the Extreme Biote, because of course that's what it's called. However, he eventually abandoned his ambitions for godhood, leading to a rift between him and the Carnage symbiote. The All Blood Necro Spear was a manifestation of Carnage's quest for godlike power and destruction, but it ultimately led to a reckoning between Cletus and the symbiote's malevolent influence. As the forces of divine might have clashed, it still doesn't explain why they made a spear. Like, come on, there was already a sword. You just wanted your own thing. You're not original, okay? You're not cool. I mean, Carnage is cool, but like, you're not cool for making this. You're cool for being Carnage. So yeah, there you go.
Number 3. Black Vortex. The Black Vortex is an interesting object that has really only appeared a few times in the comics. I really love the design of this one personally. The Black Vortex made its first appearance in the Legendary Star-Lord series in issue number 5. It is a mirror which shows whoever gazes into it what they could be like if the full potential of their powers was realized. Imagining me with like flame hair or something like that. If you gaze into the mirror and then speak the words, "I submit to the Black Vortex," the power that you see reflected back at you will be granted to you. So for me, I would have have flame hair. This is the powerful artifact that Kitty Pryde, aka Kate Pryde, once used to unlock her own cosmic potential, allowing her to use her own phasing powers to phase the entire planet of Spartax out of an amber encasing that the planet and its inhabitants found themselves instantly imprisoned in. Terrible.
Penultimately, in at number 2, Fake Gauntlet. Okay, the fake Infinity Gauntlet was a recreation of the actual Infinity Gauntlet that was kept inside of Odin's vault in the MCU. A right-handed replica of the Infinity Gauntlet, complete with replicas of the Infinity Stones, was kept in Odin's vault that was guarded by the Destroyer. In 2017, during her takeover of Asgard, Hela came across the gauntlet and declared it to be a fake, knocking it off its pedestal. The gauntlet was eventually destroyed during Ragnarok. However, the issue here is that the Infinity Gauntlet didn't even exist at the time of Ragnarok, or if it did, it had only been made recently, since we see the aftermath of Thanos' visit to Nidavellir in Infinity War. So the reason I'm saying that this is mysterious is because it doesn't make sense to have existed. You could say that it was because of like the Avengers end credits, but that end credits could take place at any time. So how the hell did Odin get a version of the Infinity Gauntlet when there wasn't even a normal Infinity Gauntlet?
And finally, in at number 1, Astral Regulator. The Astral Regulator is super mysterious. It has only appeared twice, I believe, in the comics. It made its first appearance in Thanos the Infinity Conflict issue number 1 back in 2018. If the Infinity Gems/Stones existence and power blew your mind, wait till you hear about the Astral Regulators. Each universe is believed to have one, and the Astral Regulators were created directly by the One Above All, basically the Marvel Multiverse's version of God. The One Above All created said regulators to prevent universes from colliding into one another. I wonder why they made that. These artifacts as such are heavily guarded, being stored in hazardous places where almost anything would die. As such, protecting anyone, or most beings at least, from getting to them. Thanos, however, once managed to get to one and was able to take within himself the power of some of Marvel's most important cosmic beings. So that's how bad it is if you let a villain get a hand on this Astral Regulator, or one of them, because there's many.
And at 10, Professor Pig. Professor Pig originally debuted in the alternate reality story of Batman number 666, which I love, as a corpse, which I love even more. However, he was introduced as a recurring character in 2009 in Batman and Robin number 1. In Batman Reborn, Laszlo Valentine was an extreme circus mob boss until something turned him into Professor Pig, leading him to begin funding his scientific experiments by selling narcotics to the criminal underworld. Because of course he did. All in all, he's an extremely disturbing villain and makes me think about why people aren't actually like afraid of pigs. If you put me in a room with this guy and like his pet pig, I would be scared of both. Professor Pig, if you couldn't already tell, wears a pig mask despite him spelling pig incorrectly in his name, along with a butcher's apron and what at times appears to be some form of like thrown together surgical outfit, like if he was like trying to get a last minute Halloween costume. It's freaking weird, okay? And he ends up like brainwashing and controlling various people, and then he ends up calling them Dollatrons. Honestly, I don't know what I would do, okay? I would just run away from this guy. And at 9, Hush. Thomas Tommy Elliot was a childhood friend of Bruce Wayne, and was also born into a wealthy family. The two often played a stratego-esque minifigure game together, and Tommy taught Bruce to think like his opponents and to use their abilities against them in order to win, which proved useful later on when he became Batman. But as a child, Tommy exhibits a genius-level intellect due to his capability to think and plan strategically. Tommy despised both his abusive father and his frail, submissive mother, who came from poverty and willingly endured every bit of abuse dealt to her so that her and her son could keep their lavish lifestyle. When Bruce's parents were killed, Tommy resented him for inheriting his family's fortune. Yeah, that's actually a thing. Just as he had hoped to do with his parents' money. But when Tommy's mother recovered from cancer, she disowned him, subsequently cutting him off from the Elliot family fortune in retaliation for a continued relationship that he was having with a girl named Peyton. As a result, Tommy murdered her by smothering her with a pillow, while Peyton killed their lawyer and destroyed Mrs. Elliot's new will, so he would get the money. Hush later goes on to hold a grudge against Bruce and even learns that he's Batman thanks to the Riddler. And at 8, Hugo Strange. In the post-crisis continuity, Strange was reintroduced in the Prey storyline as an eccentric private psychiatrist enlisted to help the task force assigned to capture Batman by providing them with a psychological profile of the vigilante. Basically, this guy is like a messed up Spencer Reid. You're welcome, Jordan. While brilliant at his work, Strange is depicted as being quite equally unbalanced. He becomes so obsessed with the case that he starts actually wearing a replica Batman costume in private, convinced that he is the only one who understands understands the darkness that drives Batman. According to Commissioner Gordon, Strange was abandoned as a child and grew up in state homes. A bright kid, but he apparently had a hell of a temper. Nobody knows how he put himself through college and medical school. Strange was raised in an orphanage on the Lower East Side of Gotham, not far from the infamous Crime Alley in the heart of the part of Gotham known as Hell's Crucible. So you know, he's gonna have some problems. As an adult though, he became a professor of psychiatry at Gotham State University, but had his tenure suspended after he was using his position to promote a series of increasingly bizarre genetic engineering theories. I just kinda wanna know what those are. And at 7, nobody. Morgan Ducard was the son of Henry Ducard, a world-renowned assassin, and Felicity Strode, a spy sent to kill Henry, who instead fell in love with him. I have to say though, that's the dream. Having a love so strong that even your assassin can't kill you, that's goals. From an early age, though he did not see him often, Morgan idolized his father. When his mother was contacted by the people who had hired her to kill Ducard years ago, telling her that if she failed to fulfill her end of the deal that they would kill her son, the young boy stabbed his mother to death with a kitchen knife. His father saw what he had done and appreciated Morgan's devotion to him, deciding to train his son to become an assassin like him. Ah, family bonding. Several years later, a young Bruce Wayne came to France hoping to train under Henry Ducard, but Bruce drew more attention to himself than he should have, and Morgan was sent to assassinate him. The American and Frenchman fought each other, but due to his prior training, Bruce ended up defeating Morgan and surviving the attack. This is when Morgan grew a hatred for Bruce, since after surviving, Henry decided to train him instead of killing him being Bruce Wayne in this scenario. Nobody would then go on to train Bruce's son Damian Wayne and even was killed by Damian. And at 6, the Court of Owls. They are a violent cabal who uses architecture and murder to yield political influence throughout history. Their legend is told only through whispers and a nursery rhyme that bears their name. To carry out their interests, they employ a breed of highly trained assassins known as Talons. The leaders of the organization appear to be human and wear owl masks on their faces, whereas the rest of the court on the other hand are mutated and appear to actually be human-owl hybrids. Like, their owl-like distorted faces, long claws, and their eating style seemingly prove this, unless they're just really into roleplay. The Court of Owls takes notice when billionaire playboy philanthropist Bruce Wayne announces plans to rebuild and reshape Gotham City for the future. He is then sentenced to death by the group, and their assassin, the Talon, attempts to kill him during a meeting with politician Lincoln March. They struggle at the top of Wayne Tower, and the killer survives a fall from the top. Batman then begins to investigate, and he discovers that their society has secret headquarters throughout hidden rooms in every building established by the Alan Wayne Trust. So, yeah, a little personal. Halfway through in at number 5, Clayface. Basil Karlo, the original Clayface, was an actor who was driven mad when he heard of a remake of his classic horror film that he starred in, Dread Castle, and that he actually wouldn't be playing the lead role. Adopting the persona of Clayface, the villain from one of his old films, he became a serial killer that was targeting the cast and crew. He was eventually stopped by Batman and Robin, but later, Karlo would actually be imbued with the powers of Clayface's Preston Payne and Sandra Fuller. While we may know about this character, the actual mysterious part of him comes from his DNA and his ability to copy a person's DNA. This actually ended up causing Edward Nygma, aka the Riddler, to learn Bruce's identity while he was recovering from cancer in the Lazarus Pit, since Clayface pretended to be a reanimated Boy Wonder and caused the epiphany. There is also the mystery of how in some continuities detached parts of his body can actually develop their own sentience, like in the Harley Quinn animated series, aptly known as the Quinverse. This is actually a thing. Yeah, you can lose his hand and then his hand will gain sentience. It's weird. And at 4, Joker's daughter. This is just a girl who finds Joker's face and then stitches it onto hers and then goes berserk. So honestly, it's not really Joker's daughter, but I believe it. The only person that I think could commit such an act is in fact the Joker. I mean, like he did. He cut it off and then put it back on for death of the family, but anyway. While maybe not as prolific and accomplished as the Joker, Joker's daughter is definitely mysterious enough to make this list. Even if I'm pretty sure plenty of people know about her, but hey, that's fine. It's about mysterious, not unknown villains, right? Not to mention the fact that she also went by Catgirl, Scarecrow, Riddler's daughter, Penguin's daughter, Card Queen, and Harley Quinn. Each incarnation also calling herself the respected super person's daughter, which I have to say is going to make a family reunion real weird. But in actuality, she ended up being Dula Dent, Two-Face's daughter, I guess, apparently, which is still seemingly BS, but hey, that's why it's a mystery. Getting close to the end into number 3, Two-Face. While we already know who Two-Face is, the entirety of Batman Earth 1 Volume 3 in essence revolves around that question. Who is Two-Face? The events of this story take place 1 month after Harvey Dent's death in Volume 2. Catwoman alerts Batman of the final shipment of explosives being driven to Gotham that night, and Gordon is alerted to the shipment and goes with Bullock to head off the attack. As the weapons arrive, Adrian lights Arkham Manor on fire, while Batman and Gordon learn that Jessica Dent is Harvey Dent, suffering from a dissociative identity disorder. Adrian reveals his allegiance to Dent and forces Batman inside of the ablazed Arkham Manor. Adrian in this scenario being Bruce's grandfather. Dent wants to destroy Gotham for taking so many lives, including that of her brothers, but Adrian claims that he wants to save Bruce's soul through cleansing fire, I guess. Batman frees himself with Catwoman's help and subdues Adrian, and learns that the shipment of explosives had been halted by Gordon, and a distraught Dent leaps to her death despite Batman's attempts to stop her, but is saved by Wayland at the last moment. Adrian emerges from Arkham Manor, his face melting as he tries to kill Batman before getting stopped by Gordon. With this crisis averted, Gotham is safe, and they realize that Adrian Arkham isn't Adrian Arkham at all. But ultimately, into number 2, the Holiday Killer. More commonly referred to as Holiday, they are one of the principal antagonists of the story Batman The Long Halloween. A serial killer operating in Batman's early career, the murderer targets various associates and members of Gotham's crime families. Holiday's identity is only revealed in the final issue of the story, though their identity is apparently resolved, it's still left up to question. After the events of Batman Year 1, Batman, Gordon, and Harvey Dent unite to take down the Carmine Falcone, the leader of the Falcone crime family and the most powerful criminal in Gotham City. Around the same time, though, a mysterious assailant begins targeting mafiosi members and killing them. Each of the killings use the same MO. The victim shot with a .22 pistol, with a baby bottle cap used as a silencer, and a memento is left signifying each holiday, like example, jack-o'-lantern for Halloween. Each victim is also connected either directly or indirectly to the Falcone or Maroni crime families, though at least 2 are connected to Holiday's operations. Several red herrings are also left to misdirect readers' assumptions towards other characters. The identity of Holiday is apparently revealed at the end of the series, however 3 major characters are directly connected to the Holiday identity, so you can't really be sure which one it is. Finally, and at number 1, the Joker. The Joker has undergone many revisions since his 1940 debut. The most common interpretation of the character is that of a man who, while disguised as the criminal Red Hood, is pursued by Batman and falls into a vat of chemicals that bleaches his skin, colors his hair green and his lips red, and then drives him insane. I mean, I don't know how it would bleach your skin, color your hair, and then change the color of your lips, but hey, whatever. The reasons why Joker was disguised as Red Hood and his identity before his transformation have changed over time. However, the lack of solid, consistent origin is only part of what makes this character so mysterious. During the Darkseid War storyline, Batman uses Metron's Mobius chair to find out what the Joker's real name is. The chair's answer, though, leaves Batman in disbelief. It's only revealed what it said in the DC Universe Rebirth one-shot, where Batman informs Hal Jordan that the chair told him that there were actually 3 different Jokers, not just 1. This revelation was the basis for the miniseries Batman 3 Jokers. 3 Jokers reveals that the 3 Jokers who work in tandem include the Criminal, which is the methodical mastermind based on the Golden Age Joker, the Clown, which is a goofy prankster based on the Silver Age Joker, and the Comedian, a psychopathic killer based on the Modern Age Joker who is obsessed with Batman. So yeah, certainly a mysterious character who has stood the test of time, and that's partly why people love him so much. You knew he was going to be on this list.
Number 10, Danny the Street. Danny the Street is a sentient and living street that provides a safe haven for all of those who've been rejected or cast out by society. While in the comics, Danny identifies as male and enjoys cross-dressing, often decorating his shops in pink and frills. In the live-action series Doom Patrol, Danny is described as being a genderqueer street who uses the pronouns they them. I love Danny the Street. He possesses the capability to shapeshift and teleport, often choosing to move around to places where he's needed the most. In the comics, at one point Danny the Street ends up becoming the headquarters for the Doom Patrol. In the live-action series, Danny is kept live and sustained by an ongoing party. The party is kinda like their lifeblood or their heartbeat, if you will, and if the party dies, Danny's powers fade, and eventually, so does Danny. Gotta keep the party going for Danny the Street. Also, I feel like there's gonna be people that are gonna be like, Amanda, is Danny the Street really a superhero? And I'm gonna say yes, because Danny is always there for people that need them, so I think Danny the Street should be a superhero. Number 9, Raven. Raven isn't really the most mysterious person on this list, but I think the fact that she often needs to keep her emotions in check pretty much makes her mysterious in a way. I feel like she's a character that brings with her mystery in the sense of the fact that you don't usually know what she's thinking, or sometimes which side she's really on. Raven ultimately is still a hero, but her father is the powerful demon Trigon, which sometimes makes people question her allegiance and is also a reason why she needs to have such intense control over her emotions. Raven is also empathic, which means she can easily sense the emotions of those around her, affect their emotions, and also feel compelled by those emotions or influenced by them. Because of this, she also has to watch out when it comes to her empathic powers, being careful not to let others' feelings and emotions affect her. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list, as I was writing it, I was like, there are so many other mysterious characters that we need to talk about from DC, so let us know you like it by giving this video a thumbs up and ask for that part 2 down below, because I got a lot more people that I want to talk about. There's gonna be people I'm gonna leave off, and you're gonna be like, where was this person? I want justice for those folks. Number 8. Martian Manhunter. Martian Manhunter is a character who has been portrayed as someone who forgot about all of his past. While we know it now, initially it was a mystery even to John Johns himself. I think I'm saying that right. And there's not only the mystery of his character and history here, but also the mystery that comes with his powers. Martian Manhunter is capable of shapeshifting, which, as we saw in the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League, meant he could impersonate anyone he wanted and even was living in hiding on Earth, successfully integrated into human society as he posed as Lieutenant General Calvin Swanwick within the United States Army and the government. Martian Manhunter in the comics has also struggled with multiple different identities or personas which take him over from time to time, including my personal favorite, Mr. Biscuits. Number 7. Green Lantern. When it comes to great detectives, someone who is just starting out but has amazing potential in the DC universe is Joe Maline, one of the newest Green Lanterns to come into the fold. Joe is the Green Lantern who first appeared in Far Sector, where she became the Green Lantern of a sector so far away it wasn't even numbered, hence the name of that comic, Far Sector. That's all we know it as, is Far. She also appears as a member of an alternate future Justice League that we could be building to still from Future State. Here it's declared that she is the greatest detective in, I'm pretty sure, the known universe, so that could also be a skill set we'll be seeing Joe build towards. It was either the universe or the multiverse, either way it's crazy. Currently, you can get more of Green Lantern Maline along with fellow Lanterns John Stewart, Teen Lantern, and even a little bit of Simon Baz and the rest of the Corps in the current 2021 Green Lantern series Volume 6. Number 6. Elongated Man. The Elongated Man is Ralph Dibny, who, among being known as one of the most stretchy and flexible of heroes, is also known as being one of the best detectives amongst the hero community as well. The Elongated Man is considered to be ranked among the greatest detectives in DC. Ralph gets his elasticity powers initially from Gingo Juice and ends up operating as a detective alongside his love and wife Sue. They would travel the world solving mysteries together. Eventually, Ralph would end up as a member of the Justice League and was mostly known for providing comic relief and his detective skills. Although while great, Elongated Man is still not quite at the level of someone like Batman. Just so you know where he is on the detective pecking order at DC. Number 5. Destiny. I don't know if we count Destiny as a hero. They're kind of more of a neutral force, but one that I would say errs more on the side of good as a member of the Endless. The Endless are a group of beings who represent constants in not only human life, but basically all life on Earth. Destiny is the oldest of the Endless and symbolizes and represents the unfolding of events and time, not only knowing the one path of the universe, but all of the potential paths that could be, and then kind of sorting out which way everything is headed. He possesses a giant tome known as the Book of Souls that seems to have recorded within it everything that has been and will be, or could be. Destiny is definitely the most mysterious, as it is more rare for them to appear, and often his purpose feels shrouded in mystery. While they have lots of information about what may come to pass or what is already past, those that meet them are not necessarily privy to all this information, and it's evident that they choose what they believe should and should not be disclosed to the other Endless or any other beings that they interact with. Number 4. Ghost Detectives. I am trying to reflect and discover whether these two had any other names that they went by while in this form, but I think the most accurate one that I can come up with and that I'm finding is Ghost Detectives. That's the only name I have known them by or referred to as, so that's what we're gonna refer to them as for the purpose of this list. If there's another name that I'm missing somewhere, please let me know. This duo is actually the then dead Sue Dibny and Ralph Dibny. The two used to be detectives together, as we already learned, but Sue died in identity crisis with Elongated Man helping to solve her murder. Eventually, he too would end up dead, and the two would find a way to be together again as ghosties. They could possess the bodies of humans like fellow hero Deadman, and would from then on go about solving mysteries together as ghost detectives. Of course, then New 52 happened, which reset their whole continuity, so I'm pretty sure they're both living detectives once more. I love the idea of them as ghost detectives together still though. Also, Ghost Detectives just like needs to be its own series and needs to be a thing again. Ghost Detectives. Someone write that series for me, please. I don't want Sue and Ralph to die, but make them die so they can become ghost detectives. Like, just for a little bit. Or can we just go back to the other continuity for a moment, just for this, please? Number 3, Ambush Bug. Ambush Bug is probably one of the weirdest, mysterious heroes to make it on our list. Erwin Swab, as he is also known, is a teleporter, but even his name is really not 100% confirmed. You see, Ambush Bug is kinda like Deadpool. He suffers from mental health problems, and as such is also hard to believe anything he seemingly remembers or presents when it comes to his true identity. Like Marvel's Deadpool as well, he's also fairly self-aware when it comes to the fact that he is a superhero who exists in a comic book. He often would break the fourth wall and initially started out as a villain in the comics, but then decided to become a superhero instead. Ambush Bug actually predates Deadpool when it comes to his first appearance, first appearing in DC Comics Presents in issue 52 in 1982. But he doesn't predate She-Hulk, who also is known for breaking the fourth wall from Marvel. On the Marvel side of things. Number 2, Detective Chimp. When it comes to solving mysteries, Detective Chimp is considered one of the best detectives we have within the DC multiverse. Initially, Detective Chimp started out as a circus act, performing as Bobo the Detective Chimp alongside his trainer Fred Thorpe. Thorpe made it appear as though Bobo was intelligent and was capable of problem solving, training him to respond to make it seem that way. However, later on Detective Chimp would actually help solve the murder of his trainer Thorpe, proving that he was smarter than your average chimp. Bobo would also gain eternal youth and the ability to communicate with and speak to all the creatures of Earth, including humans, from the Fountain of Youth. His investigative skills and brilliant mind make him one of the greatest detectives in the world, and perhaps even beyond. It's been implied that he's also a greater detective than Batman himself. Number 1, the Spectre. One of the most mysterious heroes out there has to be the Spectre. While not always using the most heroic method, the Spectre at the end of the day is one of the good guys, though he sure is good at dealing with criminals in horrifying and often permanent ways. The Spectre is an often ominous presence who holds so much power that he usually stays on the periphery, not really getting involved in major plots unless there is a crisis so large it demands his involvement. He is a bringer of justice, and even to this day there are tons of comics featuring the Spectre where his identity has never really been revealed. The Spectre has also been posed as a sort of mantle that can be passed on, almost like a constant role in the universe that must always be filled. Initially it was Jim Corrigan as the Spectre, later on Hal Jordan would take up the mantle, but at one point the Spectre's identity was completely unknown and just kept a mystery. Even the origin of how he came to be at that time was also unknown. And even to this day I don't think we really fully know the story of that Spectre. There's multiple origins and it's which one do you like the best?